What's up, guys? Welcome to Care Coach Lead. This is Andrew Frezza, and today we're going to be talking about why your clients should stop squatting their fall slams. On the board here, I got Hall of Fame pitcher for the New York Yankees, closer Mariano Rivera. And if you're wondering why I have him on the board when we're talking about ball slams, it's because I want you guys to think about the ball slam in the context of it being one of the few throwing movements that we would do in the gym. And we can actually look at Mariano, who amazing pitcher, can teach us some of the points of performance that we may want to have in a throwing motion as opposed to trying to make this a squatting motion. So if we look at Mariano here, what I'm looking at in his position, you guys can kind of ignore this back leg. Pretend that he has a square stance here, but this front leg, his knee is right above his ankle here, okay, slightly behind, but basically above the ankle. His hip is just above his knee, and his shoulder is above his hip, okay? If we were to draw a line there, it's gonna look like a triangle that's pointed to the side. Actually, Chuck Carswell, who ran my level 1, awesome coach, he called it the push play button. It looks like the play button on a VCR or a DVD player, if any of you guys have ever seen one of those. And that's what we're trying to replicate, okay? And when we look at where does this show up in the gym, we can look at things like our hang cleans, the bottom position of our ski erg, the bottom position of our kettlebell swing. It should be that similar position where it's hips above knees, shoulders above hips. Now, if we compare that to an air squat, any type of squat, the difference now is knees are above the hips, okay, or hips are below the knees, that's another way to say it, and then the shoulders are obviously way up in that position. So completely different position. That's what really separates our hinging movements versus our squatting movements, okay? So as we talk about the ball slam, we want to recreate more of the hinge pattern. We want to create more of a hip dominant movement as opposed to a leg dominant movement, okay? So I want to show you guys the wrong way first, which is coming way down here, okay? So we're kind of relaxing into our squat. We're going way up, and then we're squatting down each time on that ball slam. And you can see in this bottom position, hips are below the knee, we're clearly in a squat, okay? When we think about that squat position, one thing that really defines that is we're really trying to maintain that upright torso, and we're not using our anterior core here to create any type of downward force. When you think about what Mariano Rivera is gonna have to do on the mound here, he's almost gonna be all anterior power of the core, trying to drive his body weight forward, trying to create arm speed, trying to create that core to extremity movement, okay? So now with the ball slam, if I'm gonna approach it and try to recreate that throw, it's gonna be controlled on the way up, and then I'm gonna leave my butt higher on the ground here, which looks a lot like my cleaner snatch setup, okay? One thing you should notice too, that noise, that power, so much more now than it was when I was squatting, okay? Because now I'm using that hip, I'm using that core force and driving that weight. I'm creating speed, creating power. And it's really important that we do that on a ball slam because it's one of the few opportunities that we get in the gym to train this type of motion. Think about everything that you would do in the gym. When you're deadlifting, you're working against gravity. When you're coming out of a squat, you're working against gravity. When you're pressing overhead or doing a horizontal press, you're pushing against gravity. This is one of the few movements that we do in the gym where the hardest part of the movement is actually working with gravity. So we're actually trying to beat the speed of gravity. The faster we go, the more powerful, the better that movement's gonna be, the more we're gonna get out of it, okay? So it's really important that when you're working with clients, you don't have to give them the whole Mariano Rivera spiel, but I want to give you guys the why behind it. You can understand the transfer, the carryover, so that way when you're working with clients and they are squatting, you kind of know the bigger picture of why those hips should stay a little higher and why they should be generating force and power with their core, with their hips, okay? And one of the cues that I hear a lot with ball slams is that butt should beat the ball to the ground. The butt should beat the ball to the ground. And usually you'll see that with more of a lazy ball slam, okay? Where someone's kind of slamming with the arms and then going down to pick it up. So that cue may be good for that person as long as they still keep their hips high. But if that puts someone in a position where they're now going to go into that squat motion, then that wouldn't be a good cue. So what I would focus on instead is speed, acceleration, or noise. Those three cues for someone who is being a little bit lazier here, okay, if you can get them to focus on dropping their body a little bit faster and creating power and speed, and not necessarily butt beating the ball down, you're usually going to get a better result than if you simply say, hey, have that butt beat the ball to the ground. All right, so hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. We'll see you guys in the next video.